सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। सर्गस्थितिप्रलय हेतुमचिन्त्य शक्तिम् विश्वेश्वरं विदित विश्वमनन्तमूर्तिम् निर्मुक्तबन्धनमपार सुखाम्बुराशिम् श्रीवल्लभं विमलबोधघनं नमामि। यस्य प्रसादादहमेव विष्णुः मय्येव सर्वं परिकल्पितं च इत्थं विजानामि सदात्मरूपम् तस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् So, the first two shlokas are Mangalacharan, prayer verses in the form of Ishtadevata Namaskara and Guru Namaskara. Now, the author introduces a student and a teacher, a Shishya and a Guru. Most of our texts are in the form of dialogue between a Guru and a Shishya. Guru Shishya Samvada. Most of the Upanishads are in the form of dialogue. Kathopanishad is a dialogue between Nachiketa and Yama. Even Kelopanishad is a dialogue between a Guru and a Shishya. The name of the Guru and Shishya are not mentioned in some places, whereas the name is mentioned in some other places. Likewise, even Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. When a message is presented in the form of dialogue, it is easy to understand. Question, answer. It is easy to understand. Likewise, even Vakya Vritti is in the form of a dialogue. There is a Shishya, a student. We will read the verse. Tapatrayarka santaptaha कश्चिदुद्विग्नमानसः समाधिसाधनैर्युक्तः सद्गुरुं परिपृच्छति When we pick a text, we have to know certain basic information regarding the text. Suppose you have to buy a book from the bookstore. You have to get some basic information. Or you opt for a course, any course, whether medical or engineering or Vedanta, any course, you have to get some basic info regarding the course. What is the basic info? First of all, you should know the purpose. What is the purpose? Prayojanam. Likewise, even this text, what is the prayojanam? This is a Vedanta text. What is the prayojanam? Purpose of Vedanta. And then there is Vishaya, subject matter. What is the subject matter of the text? Then, who is an adhikari? Adhikari means not an officer, not that adhikari. Adhikari means a qualified person. Who is qualified? One who is qualified, eligible to study a text is called adhikari. Then sambandha, connection between the text and the subject matter. So, adhikari, vishaya, prayojana and sambandha. We have to know these four things. These four things are collectively called Anubandha Chatushtaya. Anubandha Chatushtaya. The four Anubandhas. Anubandha means Granthaadhyayana pravritti prayojaka jnana vishayatvam anubandhatvam. The knowledge of which enables you to decide whether I should study this text or not. That information, the basic information, after knowing which you can decide whether I should study this text or not. It is called Anubandha. So, prayojanam. There are four purusharthas. What are the four purusharthas? Dharma, artha, kama and moksha. Four purusharthas are enumerated in the Shastra. Artha. Artha literally means wealth, money. Money is a purushartha. Purushartha means purushaihi arthyate iti purushartha. Anything that we seek is purushartha. Anything that human beings go after, anything that human beings pursue is purushartha. If I want something, it is my purushartha. So, artha is a purushartha. Because people go after, people pursue wealth. Almost everyone pursues wealth. I want more money. I want real estate. I want to build a house. Even house is real estate, money, wealth. And some people devote all their life for wealth. Artha purushartha is predominant in their life. Always money, money, money. Their whole life is engaged in accumulation of wealth. They don't even enjoy life in the pursuit of wealth. So, artha, predominant life. Then there is a kama purushartha. Kama means material enjoyment, going for a holiday, material pleasure. There are some other people, their life is kama predominant. I want to enjoy life. They don't care much for artha. They don't care much for wealth. Rinam kritva ghritam pibet. Let me borrow money, but I should have ghee every day. So, kama purushartha is predominant. You can see such people. Without having money, I should go for a holiday to Switzerland. And if I cannot afford to go to Switzerland, at least to Maldives twice a year. Kama purushartha. Then there is a dharma purushartha. Dharma means punya. According to the Shastra, certain actions, certain virtuous actions produce an invisible meritorious result called punya. So I want to accumulate punya by doing good actions, by being good. It is dharma purushartha. You can find many people who are dharma predominant in life. They want to be good people. They want to do good. Their life is dharma pradhan. Then there is one more purushartha called moksha. Moksha is the parama purushartha. Parama means the greatest purushartha. All other purusharthas culminate in moksha. Once you get moksha, all other purusharthas become redundant. It is the supreme purushartha. In fact, everyone in the world, knowingly or unknowingly, are seeking moksha. If somebody says, I don't want moksha, that means he doesn't know what moksha is. What is moksha? Moksha is happiness. The real happiness. What is the real happiness? The real happiness is permanent happiness. Nitya Sukha. Everyone wants Nitya Sukha. So Nitya Sukha, permanent happiness. If I want happiness, it should be Nitya. I don't want a temporary happiness. All of us seek permanent happiness. Then, Nirapeksha Sukha. The happiness that I get should be Nirapeksha. It should not be dependent on another person. Most often, people are happy as long as their boss allows them to be happy. If the boss is in bad mood, this person cannot remain happy that day. So my happiness is dependent on my boss, his mood, and his mood is dependent on his wife. So indirectly, my happiness is dependent on my boss' wife. It is a sapeksha sukha, a dependent happiness. We have so many bosses. So many external factors determine our state of happiness. It is not nirapeksha sukha. It is a variable happiness, dependent happiness. But we want nirapeksha sukha. I should be happy independent of any external factor. So nitya and nirapeksha. Nirapeksha means independent. And one more thing, one more criteria in the happiness that I want. It should be niratishaya. It should be unsurpassable. My happiness should be unsurpassable. There should not be anything beyond. I am happy, but you are happier. What will happen? After a while, I will look at you and I want to be like you. I want your happiness. It is a satishaya sukha. Satishaya means you can go further. It should not be so. My happiness should be ultimate, niratishaya. I should not look for something more. That kind of happiness. So nitya, nirapeksha and niratishaya sukha. 3 knees. Permanent happiness, independent happiness, and unsurpassable happiness. That is what everybody wants. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone in the world is seeking such a happiness. And that kind of a happiness is called moksha. Moksha is characterized by such happiness. And where to find such a happiness? Should we look for such happiness outside or should we look inwards? Any external source cannot give the real happiness. It cannot give me nitya sukha. Any external source cannot give me nitya sukha, permanent happiness, because the external source itself is impermanent. Then how can it promise me permanent happiness? It is like getting a permanent job in a company. The company itself is impermanent. How can it promise me permanent job? Therefore, If I have to find a real happiness that I am seeking, I cannot find it anywhere outside. I cannot find it anywhere in the material sources. Then where should I look for? Then the Vedanta Shastra comes to my help and says, you don't have to look for it anywhere outside. Because that kind of a happiness, the real happiness, is your own Swarupa, your own nature. It is already within. What you are seeking, you already are. It is within. When this statement is made, the Shishya gives a perplexed view, perplexed expression on his face. If it is my nature, if my nature is happiness, then why is it not available to me? Why I am looking for happiness everywhere around? Then we tell him, your true nature is veiled, covered, hidden. And what hides it? There is something that hides my true nature from myself. Something that hides me from myself. And that kind of an agent that hides my nature from myself is called ajnanam or avidya. Ajnanam or avidya. Both words mean the same. Ajnana hides my true self. Generally, we translate ajnana as ignorance. Ignorance. But here we should understand. When we say ignorance, what is the definition of ignorance? In the dictionary, you can find in your mobile phone dictionary. They will give ignorance, lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge is ignorance. That is the general understanding of ignorance. But when we come to Vedanta, ajnana is not a lack of knowledge. Instead, it is something which hides the fact. Ajnana is an avaran. It is an entity which hides the truth. There is a positive entity that hides the truth. It's a hiding power. That is ajnana or avidya. And that is the understanding of ignorance in the Vedantic perspective. So, the ajnana, ignorance, hides my nature. The ignorance of my own true nature. Atma ajnana, self-ignorance. That is why the happiness is not available to me. Though it is very much present as the very nature, as the very true self, I am not able to enjoy. I am missing it. It is because of self-ignorance. And the self-ignorance has to be removed if I have to get the Parama Ananda, if I have to get the true happiness. How to remove the self-ignorance? There is only one way of removing the self-ignorance. It is self-knowledge. There is no other way of removing the ignorance than knowledge. Ajnana is removed only by jnana. That is why it is called ajnana. What is ajnana? Jnana virodhitva ajnana. Since it is jnana virodhi, it is called ajnana. Jnana virodhi means it cannot stand the knowledge. When the knowledge comes, it has to disappear. Just like the darkness. When the light comes, the darkness has to go. Likewise, when the knowledge comes, the ajnana has to go. Therefore, to get moksha, I have to work for knowledge. What knowledge? Not any knowledge. Self-knowledge. And to get self-knowledge, I should have a proper means of knowledge. The means of knowledge is called pramana. Any means of knowledge is called pramana. Pramakaranam pramana. The means of knowledge is called pramana. In fact, any knowledge that you gather happens through one or another pramana. Yesterday, we discussed two pramanas. What were they? Pratyaksha, direct perception. Senses is pratyaksha. And another pramana, anumanam, anumana pramana, inference. But the self, the Atma, cannot be understood through pratyaksha or anumana. We need another pramana. We need another means of knowledge. And it is in the form of words. Shabda pramana. The pramana to know the self is in the form of words. What words? The words of Vedanta. Vedanta Vakya serves as the pramana. The statements of Vedanta serves as the means of knowledge. Therefore, the Vedanta text serves as the pramana. Therefore, the subject matter of this text is Atma, the self, because it reveals the true nature of the self. And the prayojanam, the purpose of this text is moksha. And between the text and the subject matter, Atma, there is pratipadya pratipadaka sambandha. The text reveals the Atma. Therefore, the relation between Atma and the text, the relation between Brahman and the text is pratipadya pratipadaka sambandha. The text is pratipadaka, revealer, and Brahman is revealed. Then comes another. So we have already discussed three of the anubandhas. What? Prayojana, Vishaya, Sambandha. Now comes the fourth one, Adhikari. Who is qualified to pursue the study of Vedanta? The Acharyas have discussed who is qualified to study Vedanta. If anybody studies Vedanta, it may not work if he is not an adhikari. If he does not have the necessary qualifications and he studies Vedanta, it will not produce any result. That is why many people complain. I have been studying Vedanta for 50 years. I am not exaggerating. 50 years. Some people have been attending classes, listening to Vedanta, but it has not produced any result. It is possible. Whereas somebody else just attended 3 days of the 10-day camp and it starts working. Yeah, I am able to see the result. Just 3 days or 4 days or 10 days, they start seeing the result. Sometimes it can be as quick, whereas sometimes it may not produce result even after 50 years. What makes the difference? The difference is all because of difference in adhikaritva, difference in the qualification, the readiness. So what are the qualities that are required to be an adhikari? There are 4 qualities. They are called sadhana chatushtaya. Sadhana chatushtaya. Sadhana means qualities. Chatushtaya, 4, a group of 4. They are Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, and Mumukshutvam. Viveka, number 1, Viveka. Number 2, Vairagya. Number 3, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti. And number 4, Mumukshutva. Viveka. Viveka is a nityanitya vastu viveka. A clear understanding of what is impermanent and what is permanent. What is promising and what is not promising. I will put it in another way. What is promising and what is not promising. The permanent is promising. Most often we consider the external world as promising. We look upon the relations as promising. Some relations may give me permanent happiness, but the relations themselves are impermanent. It is true with any relation. Some relations may be lasting, but they cannot be permanent. We look upon wealth as promising. Money will give me permanent happiness. Money will give me permanent security. But nothing in the world is promising. This understanding has to come slowly. It takes time. nothing in the world is really permanent. Nothing in the world is really promising. Even wealth. This person has accumulated crores of money, crores of rupees, big real estate, big house. How long is he going to have this property? It is in his name, permanent. But the problem is, your own name is not permanent. The building may be in your name, the property may be in your name, but your own name is not permanent. Because when I leave this body, I lose this name also. I am no longer called Mr. So and so. If I am reborn, I cannot reclaim my property, even if I remember. So this gentleman has built a beautiful big house. And he is very much attached to the house. Says, this is my house. I have a permanent house. My own house. He enjoys that house. But one day he died. Because of the attachment to the house, he was reborn in the neighborhood as a dog. But then, after his death, his son-in-law took possession of the house. It was transferred to his son-in-law's name. And his son-in-law with the daughter comes to the house. He does not like his son-in-law. They live in the house for a while. Then they decide, we will demolish this house, old house. And they bring the JCB. And the day they bring the JCB, the dog barks incessantly. They are destroying my house. Now you understand why dog barks. It is no longer yours the moment you leave the body. So the whole world is anitya. Any external source that seems promising is not really promising. This understanding is Viveka. Then what is really promising? There is something that is really eternal, really permanent, called Brahman, called moksha. And if I want something permanent, if I want permanent happiness, if I want permanent security, I should seek moksha. I should seek Brahman. This understanding, this clarity is called Viveka. Then Vairagya. When there is Viveka, and the Viveka is strong, then you get Vairagya. You do not find attraction in the material sources of happiness. The material sources of happiness no longer attract you. It is called Vairagya. Dispassion. You are not interested. You are not tempted by the material sources. Then comes Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. It is a group of 6 more qualities. Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhanam. Shama means mastery over the mind. Having a disciplined mind is a Shama. You have a say over your mind. Having a say over one's mind is a Shama. Dhamma, mastery over the senses. Not allowing the senses to behave impulsively. Discipline the senses. The discipline of senses is a Dhamma. Then Uparati, having a reasonable quietude of mind. The mind is not restless. It is Uparati. Then Titiksha. Titiksha means forbearance or endurance. The ability to put up with difficulties in life. Ability to put up with problems and difficulties like heat and cold. Then Shraddha. Shraddha means trust, faith in the words of the Guru and the words of the Vedanta. Guru Padishta Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasa. Having trust in the words of the Guru, that is based on Vedanta. Then Samadhanam, focus of the mind. Ability to focus on a given subject matter, on a given topic for a length of time. These 6 are called Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. It is the 3rd of the Sadhana Chatushtaya. And the 4th one is called Mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam means mokshecha. I want to get moksha. This desire is called mumukshutvam. So these are sadhana chatushtaya. One who has sadhana chatushtaya is qualified for the pursuit of Vedanta. And the author introduces a Shishya, a student who has the sadhana chatushtaya. Sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha adhikari. The adhikari Shishya, the student who is qualified because he has sadhana chatushtaya. He approaches the Guru and asks a question. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.